fund that we raise.
Well, you used to have one, right?
I have one, my own.
Okay.
I can lend it out.
No, we'll get it solved.
Okay. There we go. Let's go live. Push this button. Okay. Well, I'd like to welcome everybody tonight. It's 6:30 p.m. We're going to get started. We have a small crowd. We have a light agenda. We'd like to make sure everybody gets back to their family and their friends in this Christmas season as we approach the holiday. Begin the meeting. I'm John Davey, the chair. Vice Chair Tim White. We have Vice Chair John Raslier, remote. Vice Chair Brooke Washburn, remote. And Bill Jamaica, who's currently the chair of our Standing Transportation Committee, subcommittee. However we want to phrase that. All things will change later tonight as we get through this. So, moving right ahead, the first opportunity we have tonight is to call the meeting to order. If there are no objections from officers, seeing none. The adoption of our meeting agenda. Any changes requested?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Raslier. Okay, the first thing we have tonight, we don't have much in the way of public tonight, but we have an opportunity for public comment for matters that are not on our agenda. So if you have something you'd like to ask, a question, if you have something you've observed, anything that's not on our agenda, there's an opportunity to do so now. Bob, did you want to do that suggestion you were making? You got a microphone there?
Yeah, I will just would like to follow up on some discussions we had when I was sitting up front with you folks as a member of the board. The issue of APAC and sustainability of APAC over the years, to my mind, is very, very important. I think that with the recent loss we suffered with John's passing, I think that, it became very obvious to us that we are all mortal people. And that because of the valued almost 20 years or maybe 20 years now worth of service for APAC.
1981.
81?
Oh,
okay.
yeah, long time.
Okay, long time.
Yes.
Well, there's a long history. It's a history that needs to be preserved and ongoing, and needs to have some mechanism for sustainability. And what I would like to offer up as a citizen is to collect funds necessary to make sure that we can sustain APAC in terms of maintaining its at least electronic files, probably hard files and everything else, in the unlikely event John Davey ever leaves us. And of course, he has signed out for life, which means you're going to be out here for at least another 40 years, John.
I've
but
got
beyond
some instructions on that, but yes.
Well, but nevertheless, I think it's important that APAC and the board and the elected voting members consider an action of some sort anyway, and I'll leave it to what that action might be, to form an association, a nonprofit, or some other mechanism that would then give you a presence and a legal standing, if you will, especially when you go before certain bodies within the county or other governments that don't tend to or historically have not paid a lot of attention, that by having standing in any form makes some sense. By having some standing that also will advance over the years, because we can sustain the history that, quite frankly, I go as a planning commissioner, have gone back to APAC's resources more often than I have county's resources for information. And that level of treasure that APAC has provided this area is something that's worthwhile protecting. So long story short, short story long, depending on how you want to do it, I would recommend that we begin the process of raising enough money to be determined to sustain our records, sustain the ongoing efforts, and to do whatever else we might want to do in terms of continuing rollout of our message, whether or not be through social media or through any other mechanisms. And that I volunteer to participate in any fashion I can to go raise that money for you. That's all.
Okay, and we kind of talked about it right before the meeting began, and on our agenda tonight, we have an item about our marketing, essentially, of our findings and on how we track votes and things like that. So we can address it a little bit then too. Nonprofit was one of the things we did talk about. So for officers, I think we'll go ahead and establish like an ad hoc if nobody's opposed. And then Bob will reach out to you. And if there's any members of the community, we'll notice it on our website. We'll probably promote that in social media and see if people want to participate in terms of forming whatever mechanism we're going to pursue, if there's something that we find that's appropriate. So, but thank you. It's very generous. I know that it was something we talked about when you were up here before, when you were an officer and people were throwing things at you up here too. But yeah, it's a concern. And you had mentioned with John's passing, I'm picking up boxes and boxes. Eileen's got from me right now. So we'll be doing that. And yeah, most of the records are electronic now. We've asked the county to, if they don't have to send something to us via the mail, we ask them not to try to save costs there too. And it's just one less thing for us to track. So thank you for that recommendation and that suggestion. And we will follow through probably in the new year. So, so are there any other opportunities for public comment online? You raise your hand on Zoom if you'd like to. I don't see any. Okay, move it along. And I gotta get to the other screen, sorry. Next item tonight, we always remind people how you become a voting member of APAC. Everybody in El Dorado Hills is a member of APAC. To be a voting member, you volunteer to work on a project, an ad hoc, a subcommittee, review a project. And as members here, we will help you with that process. If you don't think you know how, trust me, none of us knew how. And again, the thing I like to remind people is that you might have a suggestion for a way to do it better than we're doing it right now. So we would welcome that. So moving on from that item, we have an opportunity for supervisor communications, but I know that Supervisor Turnbull is not available tonight. I did hear from Supervisor-elect Ferraro, and he's up in Placerville getting ready to become a supervisor, but he is committed to being here for our meetings as we roll into 2025, and he is sworn in. So we will skip from supervisor communications. We don't have a guest speaker tonight, and let's jump right on into, I'm going to put the share up on this, APAC matters. And where's my other screen? There it is, sorry. So, is it showing up? Okay, there we go. So, speaking of communications, a group of officers, we had we call that an ad hoc subcommittee? I don't know what we're calling it. But we did have a meeting last week and we discussed the idea, Mr. Raslier had proposed that, we need to enhance our outreach with the community in terms of how we're sharing information, how we can show what we've submitted, what the response have been from agencies, and what the response have been in terms of votes at organizations like the Planning Commission or the Board of Supervisors. So I'm going to jump into this real quick, and we have a list of items. And John, you can color this for me if you'd like to jump in, but we have this list right here. The specific goals of the things we talked about was that community and social engagement to keep residents informed. We talked about informing residents about APAC findings, about our subcommittee findings and status updates that they generate. We talked about providing information about agency responses to what our findings are when we submit a letter or comments, if there's any response, or if there's not a response, to just let people know. And then also track votes at deciding bodies like the Board of Supervisors, the Planning Commission, or the Zoning Administrator. And then track community feedback on these matters by providing a comment form on our website. Right now you can email in and we'll take them, but maybe if we formalize this more with a more established process, then we could generate more of that feedback. We targeted the audiences as residents, obviously, that live here, but also talking to HOA boards, other nonprofits in the community, and other civic organizations. And the channels that we identified initially were the typical social media channels, Facebook and Instagram, where we have presence presence already. Twitter, which we have a presence already. Nextdoor, they might have changed the rules. They wouldn't allow us. They didn't consider us a legitimate public agency. Maybe we can get in there now. Right now, I think mostly just officers and members share information on Nextdoor. I know that's where I put the agenda every month. Local newspapers, and which is tough because we have local reporters that show up and they talk to us a lot. The papers are 2 days a week in the Mountain Democrat and 1 day a week for the Village Life. So it's not like and not everybody subscribes to a paper anymore, which is also difficult. We also talk about TV and radio opportunities as well. So did I miss anything on that from anybody here? Because we have one thing we're going to propose after this. Okay. All right. So with that, we're looking for somebody, community member or members plural, that want to help manage our social media efforts in terms of, like right now, I have access to the Facebook, the Twitter, and the Instagram. I think somebody said TikTok, but I don't know about that. I'm not dancing for anything. But
Might not matter in a month anyway.
that's right. It might be closed down in a month. But we're looking for somebody who has interest in helping support us. If you're doing this, you obviously become a voting member of APAC. And if you're already a voting member and want to do it, we want to solicit people that want to be engaged with this. So we would hope that you're familiar with social media platforms, and if you have press release experience, that would be a plus. And then all the messaging obviously will be approved and sanctioned by APAC officers. But if there's any candidates that would like to consider that, obviously we're recording the meeting here. We'll have it on our YouTube channel as well. But we'll start probably, I'll see if we can start in December. It might be January, but you want to jump in, or is there anything we're missing?
Can you do a discrete outreach on the YouTube channel? And
Yeah, we could separate. I could call it what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
And we'll do it like that. Okay.
That'd be good.
And then we'll make it, obviously it'll be shareable. But the goal obviously is, we want people to know. There are people who ask me, why doesn't the CSD fix this road? Okay, after about the 10th time of explaining it, I just, I don't know. Why don't you go talk to them? Yeah, and or who do I talk to about this issue? And when I try to explain, well, who at the city do I talk to? That's the other one I like. It's like, you probably should talk to the mayor. So, but ideally, John had a very good idea, that we put all this stuff on our website and we put it a little bit on Facebook and social media, but we really need an effort to push, because people don't go get information anymore. They only take what comes to them. It seems to be sort of the environment right now. So with that said, if there's anybody who wants to volunteer, obviously we have our email address on our website. It's info@edhapac.org. The officers all have their emails on the top of our agendas every month. If you don't want to talk to me about it, I know Tim is eager to hear from you. So with that, did I miss anything? Brooke and John are both online. Did I miss anything, John?
No, I don't think you missed anything. I think what we have to try to do is actively advertise and try to get someone, or maybe more than someone, a group of people to take over this task. For example, I didn't know that we were on Nextdoor, and I believe you said YouTube or FaceTime or whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I left Nextdoor a long time ago. And things change so quickly insofar as the media is concerned, this type of media, that if you just drop out of it for a month, the whole thing changes on you.
Yeah.
But I really think that we have to think about how we would make a very concerted effort to advertise this, I'm going to call it this position, and to try to get people to do it. So,
Awesome. And yeah, that was a discussion we had the other night as a very small group. So, and again, I'll just remind everybody, when I say we do it on Nextdoor, it's my personal account. I just post it. I think I'm hit most areas. But when we started, John, you were south of 50 and you would post things that I couldn't see and I would post things that you couldn't see. I think it's a little different now. But I also think that Nextdoor is kind of, it kind of spins out real easy there. But As long as we're factual and we're not, but that's the thing about this entire approach to sharing our information is that even if somebody would like to volunteer to do this, they're not going to go out and say APAC says this until we vote on it. But if we have subcommittee reports and findings, those are perfectly fine to share. And then, we don't want to engage in a debate there. We'd rather have, the discussion happen here. We try to be as friendly about it as we possibly can. So,
So I
yeah.
want to ask you, what media do you think we should focus on?
You have an idea?
Should it be next door or?
No, what I see is Nextdoor, Instagram and Facebook seem to be the ones that generate the most excitement.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And
And
again, we can, whatever we post, we could also put that together as a press release and submit it to the Mountain Democrat and to the Village Life. Whether they publish it in a timely fashion is a question. I know that they're always eager for, new information, they're trying, but their publishing deadlines sometimes are in conflict with when we need to get information out. So, but we could do that too.
okay, all right, that sounds good.
All right.
And we should go on maybe Instagram now and what'd you say, Facebook?
Yeah, I have accounts for both of those for APAC. When
And
I
we
publish
could-
the agenda, I publish it on both of those platforms.
Can we put something out like a wanted, help wanted ad that we want people to help us with this, what it is, and what qualifications you have to have in order to do this? For example, you have to be a voting member of APAC.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
All right.
This is something I think Bob Williams is also pointing out in that same direction, that we have to become more well-known insofar as what we advocate and then what the response is to what we advocate.
Okay. So infamous but not famous. So that's our goal.
We could be both. I don't know.
Okay. Well,
Whatever gives us the most leverage.
yes. And obviously, the main goal is to keep people informed and to let them know that if they want to come and help, they can come and help. So, all right.
Yes.
So if there's nothing else on that one, we'll move along to our.
Can I ask a question, John?
Oh yeah, Bob. I'm sorry, I didn't ask if there are any questions about it. I should ask that.
Yeah, I understand the need to reach out and to improve. I think that's a very laudable activity. I guess I am wondering, to what end are we really looking at in terms of information that we want to get out? Are we considering, or have you discussed ideas about having a forum, a mechanism put into our website, a comment section that obviously has to be monitored, just like you would with your Facebook accounts that you manage, John.
Yes.
It's a matter of additional time to administer, but it's still a very valuable thing that we've certainly seen a number of things come before APAC that we'd had no idea that there would be even a public comment, more or less a big outpouring from time to time about certain things. And that if we could somehow address those things in advance before coming to a meeting, and also give people a better understanding of what the whole debate is all about. And then I guess the final thing is editorials. There are times, quite frankly, APAC has been ignored. And yeah, it's true, John, you've been ignored. But nevertheless, I'm not going to argue that particular, grievance, because, it has happened. But I guess to the degree that when APAC has spent time and effort and energy and has come up with valid research, and that there should be a editorial place where we would editorialize saying no, XYZ governmental body, whatever that might be, the new city, who knows if that ever exists, we take issues with those findings.
Yeah, that's fair. And when we do our comments, when we submit them, we post those on the website as well, but they're long, and I'm sorry, applicants and staff at the county, they're long. But we don't know if we're missing something, and we don't want to miss something. But I think the intent of what we talked about was to have a synopsis of it, make it available someplace else, the long form. But the synopsis would be more of an editorial, like a hit list of what the topics are and, what we've offered, what the responses have been. But yeah, I think in terms of if we format them more like a press release with our, we're advisory, with our advisory opinion, and kind of keep it compact, I think that matches sort of the tone of what you're suggesting.
No, and I really do like that editorial aspect. I was really thinking of it more as education and outreach and advocacy. So let people know what's going on and fill the rooms necessary to get the attention that we need. But I like the editorial aspect of that as well. But I think it's all related. It's flavors of the same content.
Bob Williams, I think you got a lot of folks at Heritage. Maybe you could reach out and see if you'd get any people in Heritage. They seem to be very, very active. If you could get some group of people to join this and take part in this, that would be most helpful. And we always had in the back of our mind that we would allow people to comment, a comment section on this. And this, of course, is all in the preliminary stage. Once we get some people who will step forward, the board would sit down with them and we would hash out what exactly this website will look like and what it'll do.
Yeah, and as Bob had suggested, in terms of forums, when we post on Instagram, when we post on Facebook, there's obviously people can comment on those, and they frequently do. More often than not, they send direct messages in response to it. So, but if we do it, one of the suggestions we would make for those forums is that if they're going to comment there, that we, restrict the comments about that topic to that post, and that way it's all in one place and people can see it. So, but on the website, we got to look and see what we could do there. I try to keep it light so it performs okay. But So, is there anything else on that? Do you have any?
Hey, John.
Oh, there's Brooke.
Sorry, it's Tara. Hi. I was in a very public place. That was too noisy to type in earlier. But regarding, so I'm handling some of the Little League stuff, and it dawned on me recently that the websites are not actually reaching as many people as I had hoped they were.
True.
And so what ended up happening, and I learned this lesson most recently through just getting the word out about registration and like how our community receives information about things that are going on and about events. And it took doing an email blast to the recipients. We had like over 1,000 recipients built up in our database. And then all of a sudden, everybody knew what was going on. I thought more people were filtering into the Facebook, website, Instagram, but instead the best way of reaching people was email.
Yeah, and so we use MailChimp for our email list, and we're still on a free account because we haven't exceeded we're grandfathered into what they did back 8 years ago for free accounts. But so we use that. We could do more with it. We have said to people over the years that we don't expect a lot of emails from us. And truthfully, even if we have a lot of projects to review, there still wouldn't be a lot of emails. But that's something that we can talk about when we find candidates in terms of how we're going to structure this. So yeah, and
right.
then my business, we're doing email right now too because we have thousands and thousands of visitors to our website, and the retargeting and stuff, and the compliance with email in terms of business is a little different than it would be for a community organization. But yeah, yeah, I don't see that as getting too large or larger than anything that wouldn't be controllable. So, let's throw that into the mix.
You know, my concern is, John, that we come up with a lot of good ideas, but I don't want this to move forward. It has to be someone, not you.
That's a good idea.
Okay? Because you've taken on so much, not only with APAC, but your other volunteer efforts on behalf of the community, with Bass Lake, with the CSD, and other ventures. If we start moving along and no one volunteers, then I see it, you would probably volunteer and take it up, and you've got enough on your plate.
I have instructions, so
Yeah.
trust me.
Domestic instructions?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, so, if this to be successful, we do have to find another volunteer, and whether it's one individual who's got some,
Multiple's fine, I think.
or multiple,
Yeah.
that's fine, as long as they, work with the board and make sure their instructions are clear and they don't start branching out.
Yes.
But again, if it becomes something that you have to do, then it shouldn't work, and you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, so I think we talked about that a little bit. So, yeah, we just need to identify, I would love to have a couple people doing it that way. It's a consistent message in terms of what we set up, and configure for how we're going to process this and how we're presenting it to the public. So, again, if anybody would like to volunteer, and I don't see it as being something you're going to do every day. It's going to be something that's, maybe a couple times a month, if that. It depends on if there are projects going on that we are generating information. But we do want to track votes on matters, that impact El Dorado Hills. And those obviously would probably be at the Board of Supervisors or Planning Commission.
The only thing that might be more frequent to that would be moderation of forums.
Yeah, and the moderation of comments, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, John.
I think the primary thing right now is to get the word out that we need, that this process is being implemented, and that we need volunteers to work on it. Once we get the volunteers, then we can build a framework of exactly how we're going to run this.
So, Linda Campbell, for those in the, not in the know. So how many email addresses do you have on your email list?
Slightly over 500.
Maybe 6. It's 5 something. Yeah.
Okay, because on your Instagram right now, you only have 303.
Yeah.
Right? And so, I don't know, I could look up Facebook too, but
Yeah.
I think there's definitely been a shift in some areas, and if people aren't following you, they're not going to see it. Even if they do, if there's not a lot of activity, it doesn't build it up in the algorithm to display. Usually I see your posts when you post into groups and you share it into groups.
Yeah, so we will post on the APAC Facebook page. We don't typically share the Instagram one much. Instagram's it's an older audience now, but it was a younger audience. But yeah, so if we put it on our Facebook page, then I will share that post from our Facebook page on probably 6 to 8 to maybe 10, depending on how far out in the county we want to get, and share them there. And again, but we have that engagement, but that engagement's happening on all the other places and not on our main posts. So it's just another consideration we'll have when we get somebody who wants to participate.
Because I do notice that, and then when I see them, I'll try to go comment actually on the original post.
Thank you. Thank you.
But it's just something to think about how much you want to invest. Maybe you actually reduce the number of platforms. Maybe you don't have Instagram, unless you get activity.
It's funny that you mentioned. Okay, so I'll do another one. So Bass Lake Action. We've talked about Bass Lake Road for years, for over 20 years. So we went ahead and we submitted a poll to the community, and we focused just in the Bass Lake area at first, our members first, and then to Bass Lake, about, here's a list of what our neighbors have been talking about in terms of what the potential improvements could be for safety. We weren't saying capacity. We're saying safety for vehicle safety and for pedestrian safety combined with bicycle. And when we put that post out, we got engagement from the people we always get engagement from, and that's fine. And then we did a paid promotion for it to get it out to more people. And Facebook and Instagram are tough now because we really wanted to keep it local, but they don't let you when you do that. They want you to get out to the smallest group, the smallest distribution I can get was into Rancho Cordova, into Placerville,
Yeah.
Georgetown, Auburn. So we did that. We got a lot of engagement. We had a lot of engagement from Instagram. I was really
Yeah.
surprised. So
So,
if
so I
there's
agree.
opportunities for those things, we could do that as well too. I think when we first started the Facebook page back in 2017,
Yes.
I did paid posts for those just to get people to subscribe. So, but we can do more.
Right. I agree with Brooke, because actually I'd stopped using Facebook for 3 years at one point, and only just now, every once in a while, check in and stuff. I like the idea of doing an email. If you do it as a primary communication, just a refresher, and then in that also say, please forward this to your neighbors or your friends so that we can start getting more information out.
Yeah.
I personally, when I'm looking for things, I do go to your website because that's where really all the detail is, and I like all the detail.
Yeah,
Right.
when we talked about this the other night, we were talking about how do we get like the information about the votes and things like that. Well, it's technically already on our website because we post every Board of Supervisors Planning Commission meeting, and we try to limit it to, we have a section where it says, well, here's the things for El Dorado Hills or near El Dorado Hills that can impact it. And then we will post the minutes later and we'll pull out the minutes from that and put it in and say, here was the vote and here was the discussion. You're a frequent commenter on those. I see those. So, and thank you. So, but here's a public comment. People who did public comments. Here was the discussion at the board. Here's what action they voted to take. Here's what didn't pass. Here's what passed. So all that information is there. So when we do this, if we combine it with what we have submitted, and so one of the ideas that we have was like, okay, here's what they voted on this issue, and just by itself, and here's the supervisors who voted yes. Here's the ones that voted no. Here are the planning commissioners that supported it. Careful, Bob. Here are the planning commissioners that didn't support it. So, yeah, those are the things that we had discussed when we had our meeting the other night.
Right.
So,
And the thing about the multimodal approach is when you get engagement and you get people to go to the website, you get their email address and you encourage them to sign up on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. So once you start that momentum, it's self-actualizing.
Right. Yeah.
yeah, and like right now, I don't know how it's a paid service. Like I can get from an IP address if somebody comes to the business websites that I manage, I can get their name, their address, their email address, phone numbers, just from an IP address. It's scary. So we won't be doing that. Mostly because we don't want to pay for it. But yeah, so those tools are available. We want to do it. Obviously, we've identified what our goals are. And yeah, I'm not opposed to doing the promotion to get more subscribers or a promotion for the email. We can do, we promote the email list as a promotion on the social media platforms as well.
Yeah, because if you expand that, I mean, you could do just bi-monthly updates. So then
Yeah.
you're not flooding people, but it does get to more individuals, I think, than
Yeah.
figuring out social media and changing algorithms and how to get activity. Because some people just don't want to comment. The reason I comment is because I understand what it does, right? And it helps to
Being-
boost it. Yeah,
It's a big problem.
I agree.
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah,
So, and so like, well,
my 2 cents.
one of the other things I do every month is the Bass Lake Bulletin. And Vice President, Bass Lake Action Committee, Ryan Cassidy's in the back room right now. And so that's just something we've done since 2002, but it is a chore. It is a genuine chore. If we're going to do a newsletter, perhaps as a synopsis of just the items we've identified, that we could do that as well and say, here's what we posted this month, and here it is in one place as part of an email blast. If people want to subscribe to that sort of update. So we probably would want to provide, maybe it'd be multiple lists, or it would be segmented lists. So people say, yeah, I want the newsletter too, or I don't want the news, or I don't want the monthly, or so. All things that we can talk about. Okay. We talked about that longer than I thought we would. So with that, we'll move forward. We're not gonna make 7 o'clock. We were betting on if we'd be done at 7:30. So our meeting schedule for 2025, this is the first year for me, since 2017, where we've tried to reserve the room, the fire department here has been so generous. In the past, it used to be you had to reserve it monthly, and if you didn't get in line, you weren't going to get it, or if you had to be like a month in advance. And now, to Chief Johnson's credit, he's like, just put in your list for the year and we'll see if we can accommodate. And again, I'll remind everybody, this is a, board president, excuse me, this is a free room to us. This equipment is free to us. It's a tremendous thing for the community to have available to them that the fire department has been supporting. So, and I have a mention of that at the end. But every date that I submitted for this year was open and we got it. So we're every Wednesday, second Wednesday of the month. There are no holidays on those this year. That was the biggest thing. So second Wednesday every month, 6:30 p.m. in person here in this room, virtual on Zoom as we're doing now, and also stream live on YouTube. So you can take note, and I expect everyone to plan their vacation around these dates because I've been told I need to do that. So so there we go. So we're gonna no conflicts. The dates are the dates. If we need to change or add, if there's something special or urgent we need to get together for a project, if we can't get the room, we'll do it virtually. So, and we've done that in the past. So moving along from that, again, I wanted to thank the fire department. You know, we need to do that. We should be doing it every meeting, and we forget just because they're very sort of nonchalant about it. It's like, okay, you got the room. But you know, they've been doing this for us since after the pandemic. It's a long time. It's free to us again. You know, I just want to say that, you know, it's beyond the charter of the fire department that they're doing. They have this engagement with the community, and that's an improvement we've seen in the last 8 to 10 years. That perhaps, I mean, it was always there, but it's really demonstrated by their action now. So we also want to thank Chief Johnson for his support of community groups. I've had Chief out at meetings for the Bass Lake Action Committee during COVID and in the street. So along with the Highway Patrol and the Sheriff's Department. But we want to congratulate Chief Johnson, who obviously he announced his retirement. Got to see him last night during the Santa Run. And we also want to congratulate his interim fire chief, Mike Lilienthal, who's also been very supportive. There are times where Mike would be in this room setting it up for me before I got here to do the meeting. So Mike is also another person who's, sorry, Chief Lilienthal is committed to that community engagement. So just want to say thank you because we don't say it enough. So thank you, Fire Board, for supporting the staff.
Well, I will tell you that Mo is going into retirement, very well-deserved retirement after 34 years in the fire service. He will, at least now, he's going to continue to live in rescue, and he's going to be setting up a company that's going to do fire department advisory services. So he will stay involved with fire. And as you, he and interim chief Lilienthal have committed to a very smooth transition. So I don't think the community will see no drop in service or anything drop during the transition period.
Yeah, I had a chance to talk to both of them last night with Santa. So there we go. Moving along. So the next item on our agenda, our 2025 officer election. This was kind of in the bag because we only have so many voting members. We didn't have multiple candidates for the position. I don't think we've had it in the last 8 or 9 years where we've had multiple. So, but boy, it'd be nice to have a contested election next year because somebody else could be chair. But Mr. Aslier, Tim, Brooke have all agreed to continue as vice chair. And we finally have our new secretary, Bill Jamaica, has been kind enough to offer more of his time to APAC. Bill, thank you very much. Obviously, we were in the hole when Bob moved up to the Planning Commission, and Bob was very engaged. You're very engaged already. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank the other board members. This is, you know, these all have titles. We all do the same things. So it really is a collaborative effort, and we all lean on each other, and we teach each other, and we learn from each other. So thank you all, and thank you, Bill, for doing that this year.
My pleasure.
Okay. And we're going to get to 7:30. It's going to be easy. Trust me. So area project updates. He said, so here's that thing about the TIF major update. Settle down. and Adam, we'll be careful. So obviously this has been a process that the county's been working on, Department of Transportation, for a while to update the traffic impact fees. In the letter that we submitted, basically was that our concern was that obviously with John Heidel's passing, we didn't technically have a representative at the Board of Supervisors, and we didn't want to conflate our request to extend this or continue this board item to a future meeting with what our opinions were about this. So we only submitted a letter that said that, you know, we would like you to extend this because you have a semi-new supervisor coming in for District 3 in January, the end of this month. And obviously, Greg Ferraro's the supervisor-elect in District 1. So our letter was basically saying, okay, we think you should continue this until the new District 1 supervisor is seated, and also provide an opportunity for District 3 because he's coming in and this will be decided before he's even there. So it's a legislative and executive body, but that was our request. Had we known that this was going to not get continued, we probably would have submitted some other comments. But the thing that I think the building industry is very concerned about, and landowners and applicants, and even you, if you're building your own house, was that, you know, it's a significant jump in El Dorado Hills, which is Zone C. And in this example on this chart, it's showing essentially an 80, and it's averaged out, but it's an 80% increase for the TIF fees in El Dorado Hills. There's only a 1% increase in Zone B, which is mostly Cameron Park and Shingle Springs, and then the rest of the county. Zone A, there's another. It's also a modest. Well, it's 36%, but it's still modest compared to what's going on in essentially District 1 is probably the best way to describe it, but District 2, parts of it as well. So the building industry thought that was a significant increase, and I know there's been a lot of discussion about whether or not the nexus was what it should be. We didn't submit comments on that because I don't think we took the time really to explore it. We were just trying to get to it and try to get this extended so we could have representation as they consider this matter. It did pass. I'm going to jump ahead. As an example, it's on the next screen. Let me do it like this. So in Zone C, we were at it's the average on this, $36,781 residential. And with this update now, it's going to be $66,000. So that's not a small jump. And, you know, we talk about how development projects aren't able to do affordable or more affordable or missing middle housing in El Dorado County because these fees kind of curtail what you're able to do. In contrast, Zone B, they were at $31,297. Now they're at $31,745. Zone B contains Marble Valley and Lime Rock Valley, and technically Town and Country Village, El Dorado, the hotels. So, and all of them want to be in the El Dorado County, the El Dorado Hills community region. Our position, if we were going to make a comment, I believe, was that if your project's to be in the El Dorado Hills community region, you should probably be paying Zone C pricing. If those projects had been put into the Zone C, I think overall the mix of projects, you know, it would maybe temper out in terms of, you know, the dollars. It would have been a different number for that nexus, I think. So, but we never got to that. We didn't explore it. It was approved by the Board of Supervisors that we're at. I know that the Supervisor Parlin and Supervisor Turnbull had concerns about what we're talking about. You know, the big projects that would be in Zone C right now would be Generation at Green Valley, Creekside Village. Also the pre-application for, what are they calling it now? I'm already blanking on it. The R&D zone right now, but
Gateway.
thank you, Gateway El Dorado. I was looking for the word, start with the G. So they'll,
And the AKT.
and the AKT, if that application ever develops, and also technically Costco. There's, you know, so all those projects would be paying a significantly higher rate for those impact fees, and you know, and obviously the nexus that the consultant and the staff worked on was that, you know, well, those are impacts that are, you know, our density is pretty high in terms of population. So and oops. Go ahead.
Yeah, John, I wanted to just jump in. And
Yes.
this is the kind of thing that we would have put in our social media, that APAC felt that District 1 did not have any representation, and that voting at this time on this particular item should have been put off until District 1 had a supervisor. And then we would list the people the supervisors who are on board, who voted for this TIM fee schedule. That's the kind of thing that we want to get out to the public.
Yes. So, Linda,
Whenever you're ready.
go right ahead.
I have plenty of thoughts on this.
Okay.
I had comments. So I do have a lot of concern about the process itself. Bob and I both brought up the fact that when this went to the planning commission, it wasn't what I expected it was going to be when they talked about it at the supervisors meeting on October 22nd. 2 days later, all it was a list of projects. There wasn't any cost. There wasn't anything. The Nexus itself, over 100 pages, and it was posted right before Thanksgiving. A lot of other points, right? Representation. Honestly, I did attend the meeting, the Board of Supervisors meeting, and Heidel was understanding of this. And I agree with George that he would have approved it. I would say it's important to keep in mind that for these TIF fees, technically, these aren't supposed to be, if you're an individual on a property building your own home, these aren't what you should pay. They are for projects that are 5 or more homes, dwelling units, right? So there's some distinction. Also, I think that AKT falls in Zone A, because yeah.
I had to look at that map again.
We're a little bubble.
Yeah.
He's a little bit larger around us, but then I think AKT falls in Zone A. So, but.
Indians just right here, with Creekside.
Yeah.
I look at that map closer.
They're actually, according to the guidelines and regulations, they're actually supposed to do this based on current zoning. So they're not supposed to take into account proposed projects. But they do make projections because they know that we're going to have to grow somehow, right? Or they have a projection too. But then also, if we think about it, because of the amount of growth in Zone C, we will need the most infrastructure. And that's what it's there for. I mean, we talk about our roads and stuff all the time. Well, they have to be paid for. And so this is the way that they're done within the county, because we don't raise taxes to cover the fees for that particular infrastructure, which is what would end up happening.
I know that.
Linda,
Yeah, go ahead.
correct me, but these fees, if they're, let's say it's Dorado Hill Zone C, the money collected doesn't necessarily go to infrastructure improvements in Zone C. It's a countywide fund, so they can take the money that's collected from Zone C projects
Not
and apply
supposed
it
to.
building roads up in Cool or some other place.
They're not supposed to. And in fact, I will say, because
Yeah.
they used to have 8 zones,
Yeah.
and now they've reduced it to 3. And in fact, they did take money from other zones in order to pay for some of the stuff in El Dorado Hills. So it's actually done in the reverse.
And I also want to identify, I know that the Mountain Democrat article, I don't know if it's in the Village Life yet, but they had it backwards in their reporting. They said that there are 8 zones. So that wasn't quite
They didn't
accurate.
read the document then.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Adam, you're very kind to be here tonight.
Oh, sorry.
We'll get to Adam, and then we'll get right back to you, Brooke. You're a bonus visitor tonight, so thank you for being here in the holiday season. And Adam obviously is at the Department of Transportation for Illinois County. As soon as you're green, you can just talk.
There we go. Get the green light. Thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to speak with folks. We did, on December 3rd, the board did choose to adopt our major update to our TIF program. Folks in this room are very familiar with it. A lot of the folks online are very familiar with it, but for anybody who's not, El Dorado County has got a series of general plan policies that require that we implement a traffic impact fee program, whereby which new development pays its way to build the infrastructure that's necessary to provide traffic circulation for that. It's a very complex system, and it's the Mitigation Fee Act in California is also very complex. And so this effort took nearly 18 months. We heard a lot of comments about this was rushed or in a big hurry. In certain aspects, it's certainly a valid comment. In others, we've been working on this for a very long time. And it takes a long time to put together all the necessary information to do that analysis. And so we have been to the board, I believe 7 individual times with bits and bite-sized pieces of what it takes to develop all the information to update the program. Folks have certainly had differences of opinion all along the way about many of the decisions that were made, but each one of them were made by the board, and they were provided information to do that. All that information is available online. I've got a stack of business cards I'd like to leave, and if anybody's got any questions, I'd be more than happy to walk somebody through how all that kind of came to be. But it did get updated. It did get approved by the board. The new fees go into effect February 1st, and those TIF fees are due for a residential home at the time that the permit is issued. For commercials, there's a couple of other alternatives by which you can pay or defer those, but basically the fee is established at the time the building permit is issued. So that's things that people need to know, because if you're planning on pulling a building permit and you have an opportunity to get your plans done in January, do it, because they will go into effect in February. We have heard lots of comments, lots of opinions, lots of different ideas about what it should be, what it shouldn't be, and all those are valid. Everybody has their own prerogative. The building industry, this is a huge impact to their business models and how they do things. It's a huge issue to the residents of existing El Dorado County and El Dorado Hills. El Dorado County is somewhat unique from other counties in California in that we have Measure Y and Measure E that are in our general plan that require that the TIF program fully fund roadways to provide level of service for the community, including the growth that's planned. So I've heard a lot of comments on the way folks think this should be structured, the number of zones, the location of the zones. All those are absolutely valid opinions, and some of them may be the best solution in our next update, or if we do an interim update or those types of things. But the couple things that I've heard from the public and in comments at the board and in the community, there's a lot of lack of information or not complete information that some folks have had, and that's common anywhere. But we do have resources available to help inform folks. I've got my business cards, and I'm happy to answer individual questions. We have committed to the Building Industry Association that if they can find something in our analysis that is flawed or that they feel should have been done differently, we've got an open invitation to come in, sit down, take a look at it, and if in fact something didn't get done correctly, this thing's 138 pages long. I've been through it at least a half a dozen times, and Zach knows every page and every dot on it. So we've put together the program that we think is defensible and appropriate, made by decisions that were made at the time. The reality of it is that it's a very large increase. I'm a father, I've got 3 kids. I'm trying to figure out how to keep housed and employed in El Dorado County. And my personal opinion is I would love for it to go away and fund things other ways. But unfortunately, we don't have that availability. So the things that I can offer up are, we do have a Nexus study for the TIF update. I have a copy of it here I can leave. It's also available on the county's Department of Transportation website. Again, I'll leave my business cards. Anybody is welcome to call, email, whatever. I can walk you through all those things. There's another element too that got brought up about the Marble Valleys and the Generations and the Creekside projects, that's very valid, is these projects are proposed, and if they come in, then they're going to change things. And that's absolutely correct. But we don't have, our requirement is to comply with the general plan as it currently exists. So Marble Valley, and I know I'm going to screw up the number, but it's got 450 some parcels down there that were allowed under the existing general plan designation. Their proposal is to put in somewhere north of 4,000 between Marble Valley and Lime Rock. That will significantly change the math on how those TIF improvements or those TIF fees are calculated. But it's not been approved yet, and we can't assume that it will be. Similarly with Creekside or with Generations or with any of the other projects, until they're approved, that's not our general plan. And we can't go implement fees that people will pay inconsistently with our current general plan. So for any of those projects that come through, they will likely all trigger a reanalysis of our overall TIM fee program. There has been a lot of discussion about projects like Marble Valley and Lime Rock, where they fall right on the border between two different zones. And wouldn't it be more appropriate to move those? That may very well be the right answer. And that may be something that works better for the community. If we added 4,000 units into Zone C, that TIF fee program would go back down to about where it's at now. So that may be a solution. That may be something that we take up, but it's not in there now. And if we make that assumption, then we're wrong.
Wasn't that Supervisor Parlin's caveat at the end of the vote where she added that would be?
There's been lots of suggestions or discussions. Again, the board votes as yours does, as a group of the entire board, and lots of people have different ideas. One project that came up a number of years ago was Sandstino in the Shingle Springs community. That project had all kinds of controversy and things. However, had the county taken the approach of, hey, this is a project that's been proposed, it's been developed, we'll go and adjust our TIM fee program to assume that all those things are going to get built, all the infrastructure that's necessary for it has to get paid for, then we would have been wrong. So folks have different opinions about it. There's certainly technical experts that are free to dig through things. If anybody finds anything that's incorrect, we'll be happy to correct it. But everything's based on the existing general plan. The justification for it is in the Nexus study. Unfortunately, the Mitigation Fee Act changed a couple of years back, and it requires that these Nexus studies, previously it was a very thin document, was basically spreadsheets figuring out how you calculate it. Now the impact fee program, a mitigation fee program requires, we have a narrative format that discusses basically the same things. So all those are in here as well. And that's why it took a little bit longer to get these things out than what we had done historically. But the base calculations are almost identical to what we've done before. So with all that said, the fees were proposed, they were approved, and they will go into effect February 1st. We have the new rates available online on our website, and I will offer to walk anybody who has a question about it through the program. Heard a lot of comments about this wasn't intended for single family homes, mom and pop to go build a house. That's partially correct in that there's language about it being a subdivision of 5 parcels or more, but every home that builds pays a fee. And I live in Pollock Pines, and I have to pay a fee too. So, a portion of that fee pays for the El Dorado Hills Boulevard interchange, because I drive down to Costco and I pay a portion of that fee. So, I don't think there's any specific questions that I've heard that I can answer in detail, but I offer up that anybody wants to contact us, please do. We can walk you through how things came to be. Anybody that has any solutions, suggestions, Supervisor Heidel had a lot of thoughts about how we might be able to fund infrastructure differently and be able to make it more efficient. And I think some of his ideas were excellent. So, this community has got a lot of folks that have got worldly experience and bigger and better ideas, and we're open to any of those. So we offer that up to anybody that's got any questions. If you've got specific questions, I'll be happy to answer those kind of offline. But
let me get Brooke real quick, and then we'll come back. Brooke, did you still want to ask a question?
Sorry about that. It took me
There
a
you are.
second to unmute. I was just curious with the TIF fees, is there like a retroactive component too where the TIF fees could be used like El Dorado Hills, homes that have, or infrastructure that's around, 60, 70 years now. And some of the changes, digging up pipes, which would require, changes to the roadways, new surfacing. Do the TIF fees account for that? I know the new projects it'd be apportioned for infrastructure going in on new projects, but what about addressing the need to retrofit or basically redo some of the infrastructure that exists in El Dorado Hills?
Our fee program doesn't go back to anything prior. It only funds new roadway circulation facilities to accommodate for growth. And that's very specific under the Mitigation Fee Act of what you can charge for and what you can't and what can be included in those programs. So currently, the TIF program requires the widening of roadway surfaces, but the frontage improvements are excluded from that because they're on the developer's obligation. So the short answer to that is no, it doesn't pay for maintenance. It doesn't pay for update of inadequate facilities. Having said that, one of the projects that's in the TIF program is the El Dorado Hills Boulevard interchange. We've got the fourth, hopefully the last phase of that coming out to construction in 2027. And that will build that in a new state, and it will take care of some of the old stuff that's there, and it will update it to current standards. But it wouldn't, for instance, go and put an overlay on Latrobe Road if that's what folks want. That's not a capacity issue. So I've heard a lot of conflicting information and opinions about that, and it's not to retrofit old things. It's not to maintain things. It is because of the Mitigation Fee Act. It is solely to mitigate the impacts of new development on the circulation infrastructure program.
And you can kind of see where I'm going with it too. Like, take for instance, Saratoga. We've been told a lot that there isn't money in the budget or with the fees that would be required to widen Saratoga. And there's certain projects like that where some of the infrastructure isn't there because it was told, well, it is planned. So like sidewalks, for instance, don't get built because there is a widening plan, but they're just told that the fees aren't available. And it just kind of goes into when we're doing that assessment, when we're setting these fees, and especially anticipating some of these other large master plan communities, is there long-term planning that goes into it where we're calculating out the fees to properly assess what the infrastructure needs are?
So yes, the program is a 20-year program. So that's the planning horizon that we utilize. And yes, we take a look at what the anticipated impacts are over a 20-year program. We update that every 5 years because we know things change. We had 2008 where I got here in 2004 and we had a $400 million CIP program, and we had an office in Placerville. We shortly opened up 2 new offices down in El Dorado Hills, and we were trying to hire 7 people for my position when I got here. Right now, that's not the case any longer. We had a 3% or 4% planned growth rate. That didn't occur. So we adjust for that every so often. I'd be more than happy to walk you through what is included and what is not included in the TIF program specifically. And there are very specific rules about what we can include and what we can't. So your question about are we planning for sidewalks and bike paths and those types of things, some of those can be paid for with TIF fees and some of them can't. So we can specifically answer a specific question, but in general, there's guidelines to it. Probably a long-winded lack of an answer, but.
No, I appreciate you addressing it. Thank you.
You bet.
Bill, did you want to go?
Yeah, so a comment was made earlier about using fees from one zone in another. I saw you shake your head. When we met with Raphael a couple of weeks ago, he specifically called out potentially using Zone B funds for the Southeast Connector in Zone A, or Zone C, sorry.
Things can be transferred from one zone to another, but it's typically done as a loan. It has to be a board-approved activity, and it's not intended to do that. Sometimes we'll have funding cash flow issues in one zone or another, and those will get lent and borrowed and then repaid between the zones. And there is some flexibility to where we can do an annual update and adjust things around if things have to be done, or we have a 5-year update and we can make other adjustments. So one of those types of things would be is if a Marble Valley and a Lime Rock were to come in and get approved, that would be something it would change the general plan. It would trigger another major update, and that would be something that would get taken a look at. And should that zone line get moved, you mentioned the Mountain Democrat and the Tahoe Tribune all had the discussion backwards. But all those can be revisited, and we received direction that they want to take another look at all those zones from a practitioner standpoint. The outer areas have such a small impact overall that the thought at the time was it would be better to ease the ups and downs in the specific criteria in certain areas, but that was a decision that was made at the time, and we've been asked to revisit it with the next update. So that all that stuff is open for reevaluation whenever we do a new update.
That was the exact context the conversation happened in.
Yeah. It's we have done it in the past. We can do it, but generally it stays in the zone where it's.
For the benefit of those, probably everyone in the room knows what a nexus study is, but for the benefit of those who you're going to watch it on our TV station or on Zoom, could you give a 1-minute explanation of what a nexus study is and why it's required?
So California has an impact mitigation fee. They've got lots of laws that pertain to that. And government can't just go impose a fee for a willy-nilly idea that they have. They've got to get it adopted under some program. If it's going to be a mitigation fee program, that the legislation requires that there be a specific nexus between what the fee is and what it's going to be used for. So in this case, it's traffic impact mitigation. So when new homes, new businesses, new development occurs in an area that generates some additional traffic, that stresses the infrastructure program, and we have to develop widen roads, add new roads to accommodate for that. But the nexus study has to show that those new roads are specifically needed for that new development, and that we're not overcharging, we're not undercharging, and it needs justification for what it's going to get spent for, how it gets spent, when it gets spent, all those types of things. So the nexus study goes through and explains, here's what the impact is, here's what the fee is, and here's how they connect together, here's why they connect together, here's what it can get used for, here's what it can't get used for. And that's basically the idea. It's justification that the fee fits what it's going to be used for, and that there's no funny business where we say, this is a traffic impact mitigation fee program, but somebody would like a new building up in Placerville so that I get a better view in the office. It can't be used for that. The Nexus study says new infrastructure is required because of new homes. Here's the cost, here's what the fee is, here's it gets spread out and distributed. So that's what it is. It's basically a justification for how we came up with those fees. And it also locks us into making sure that those fees are used for those purposes. We have to go through an annual audit and report on all of those fees to say this year, this is what we planned on doing, this is what we did, this is how it all worked. So that's what it is in a nutshell. And it's very lengthy, and eyes bleed after about page 50.
They're fun to read. So are there any questions in the room? Any more questions online? Don't see any hands going up. Thank you for doing that for us tonight. Holiday season, we appreciate you coming down, and it's always appreciated because you always provide us with good information. So
this is an excellent forum, and you guys are doing an excellent job in getting information out of the public. We appreciate the partnership.
Can I jump in for a minute?
You're jumping.
I want to say that in all the years that I've been a member of APAC, I've never had such a clear explanation of what these fees are. And I want to thank you for doing that. And this is something that should go out to the public as part of what we're talking about now, a social media outreach. So I want to thank you.
Thanks, John. Pleasure.
Just a very, very quick comment. I would hope that come the first of the year, APAC will not let this thing just simply fade into oblivion. I believe that it was my belief that this thing should have been postponed. That the fact that the Nexus report in its draft form could have been made available to the Planning Commission at our last meeting. That at that last meeting, the interim TIF fees and CIP fees were evaluated. 3 members voted for it. 2 of us did not vote for it. In part because, at least my rationale for not voting for it was that there was no numbers tied to anything that was really presented to us. I believe that obviously the board has any right it wants to exercise in terms of approving or not approving something, and then they have approved these TIF fees as they stand. However, it's still, I think, important for whoever sits on the Planning Commission next year and as a new supervisors move forward, that they also evaluate and reevaluate these in light of an Nexus fee study that nobody has had a chance to, including those of us who have spent a lot of time looking at such fees and such reports, have had a chance to digest. And that this will have ramifications in terms of how Dorado Hills develops. And please don't let it die.
Good input. Thank you, Bob. All right. And with that, we missed the 7:30. Sorry, guys. Yeah, we did. Time is not my friend. We have some very simple updates tonight to wrap up our meeting. And these aren't even really posted yet on the APAC website. I was just going through them today just to make sure that we weren't missing anything in this. I know that, John, you had mentioned that the property that had been proposed for the senior care facility along White Rock at Carson Crossing, that was approved, I want to say 6 years ago, and that there's a different proposed development there, but I didn't find any documents online yet. Was that just a conversation you had, or?
It's a conversation that I had with the construction company, and they informed me that they were going ahead with the building of an assisted living facility that would house about 100 beds, and another building that would be a doctor's medical office. I had seen this, oh my goodness, maybe 5 years ago. They were very serious about doing this. I had seen the plans. I had spoken to the people who were going to run this facility. And then I think what happened was 2 other facilities opened up in the immediate area, and the whole thing just went away for a while. But now it's back. The machinery is there. They're preparing the site to build. The county has not received any exact information about getting a license to build, to have this structure in operation. But I've seen it before, and now it's come back, and they're working on it. So it's there.
Okay, well, we'll follow up, and I'll check with the planning department to see if there's any changes to what, it was an approved project, if I'm remembering.
2018.
Yeah, thank you.
They've been issued a grading permit.
Grading permit, okay. Based on that, the approval from, okay. So that's where that, so maybe we'll engage them to see if they would like to describe where they're at now, if there's any changes to their project. So we'll reach out and see what we can do.
I remember one of the big issues and John Raslier raised it up at the time, was with the sight lines, the traffic, the turning, and I think they made some changes to their plan.
Yes.
So that the visibility around the curve would be.
It was like the last changes that were submitted with the project.
Right.
Right before it was approved or concurrent with the approval. It's a while ago. So
There was some changes to the site design due to conflicts with the Capital Southeast Connector design. So they had to shuffle things around.
That was it, yeah.
That was done quite some time ago.
okay. Well, the other items that we had that so we know that Montana Dorado for their, it wasn't just their phase 2 project, which was approved a few years ago in 2021. You know, the phase 2 for Montana Dorado, corner of White Rock and Latrobe. You know, the current projects there where Relish Burger's at, and you know, all those uses there. The phase 2 had proposed a pretty good mix. You know, the applicant was very engaged with APAC over 3 or 4 meetings. I mean, we had public meetings with the applicant for just the community, very engaged. They got their approval back then. They had intended to have, there was like a grocery use, a hotel use, an amphitheater for community use. But they, this past year, several months ago, they had proposed a pre-application to modify that project to include, I think, 330 apartment units in multiple buildings. And so it sort of changed. And so we had a lot of questions about that, but it's a pre-application and it's never, I don't think it's really gone anywhere. But now they do have a time extension because the project they had approved, you know, they're allowed to request extensions for the you know, the map, the parcel map and everything on that. So they have applied for that. It's 6 one-year time extensions, which they're allowed to do. Mixed use plan development time extension for that specific project number there, mixed use plan development parcel map time extension, and a mixed use plan development special use permit, because they had a special use permit involved with their approved project. And they're all seeking 6 one-year time extensions. So just to let you know that's going on there. We still have not heard back from the applicant about you know, what they can do or what they'd like to do or what they expect to do. So stand by. I believe the TAC meeting, or what was, there was, I think they asked for responses by December 5th. Yeah, it was a TAC. I don't know if it's a TAC or not, but I know that they looked for comments from public agencies, and we don't even know. There's nothing else proposed in it. We offered conditional support for the last project, and he made a lot of changes to his project based on input he was getting from community members and from APAC specifically. So I will reach out to Mr. Perkins again and see if there's anything he'd like to address, or if he can address. So I don't know where he's at with it right now. So the existing project, yeah. So yeah, I haven't seen anything else in the pre-app. So
In the past, when APAC has raised objections to grant to either planning or the board granting 6 one-year time extensions, basically we've been told it's almost automatic. You know, it's allowed under the California law, and it's typically granted.
yeah, the subdivision act
Yeah.
provides.
Yeah, we declined the 6 years, couple of times.
Yeah. Okay. So there's that. The other item, it's technically not El Dorado Hills, although we provide input on things that are adjacent to El Dorado Hills. Silver Springs Estates. So this is not Silver Springs, a project that was from 1990 something. When I was building my house way back when, but and that is the reserve at Silver Springs. It's Blue Mountain Communities doing that, and they did get I think they only got like a 1 or 2 year extension on their last part of it, so they're up against it in terms of what they're allowed to do over there. Across the street on the west side of Silver Springs Parkway, behind the middle school and the property the high school district owns, and I'll show a map real quick. Silver Spring Estates, 27 lot subdivision. They describe it as El Dorado Hills and Rescue in their application. The application says it's District 2, but when I look at the map, it's District 1. I think Silver Springs Parkway is the dividing line. So the application might be a little askew there. It's based off a large lot, you know, that they already have. It's 52 acres. The owners are Silver Springs LLC, based in Lathrop, California. And this is what they're talking. This is hard to look at because that's east west, but it's actually should be turned on its side. It should be north south. But I don't know if you can see my mouse when I do this. I don't have my pointer in here tonight. The school is up here at the left side of the map. So if you turn it on its edge, you can get an idea. Silver Springs goes north south. So it's on the west side, and this is what they're talking about in terms of what they're proposing. It's a pre-application. And I think it didn't come in until November 13th. So we missed a meeting, but here we are now. And again, this is the same sort of look of satellite imagery. It really is north, south, not east, west on this. So, oh yeah, November 13th. So just to show what it looks like, Bass Lake Road is at the right end where Bass Lake Road, you have to make a right now on Bass Lake Road to continue. So, and where else? And that's more of a north-south. So you have the existing Silver Springs project on the right side. They have some other phases that they have time extension for. It wraps around this property here, which has had 2 proposals over the years of 84 units. Hey, my house is down here in the corner. But so, they have this project planned out, the time extensions that they get going, they might meet it. The project they're talking about is over here. It's on the west side. The school is at sort of the top of the map along Green Valley Road. So I don't think we saw a tax notification on that, but sometimes District 2 stuff we just don't get. And I'll check with planning again to see. But usually if it goes out, Bob's very good to let us know if something goes out in District 2, because he obviously gets a notice on that, on the tax notice. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure if you saw it, you probably would have already told me. So, but again, it was just submitted on the 13th of November, so I don't know how far along that is. So with that, remind everybody for our meeting, if you have public comments and you can't be here, or if you have comments you'd like to get in front of our guests or our applicants or us, so that we could search out those answers to have them ready at the meeting, we take those comments to edhapac.comment@gmail.com. It's not one of our domains. By 5 p.m. the Monday before the scheduled meeting, so you give us 2 days to go and find an answer. Questions, we try to make them related to the agenda items. The other thing tonight is that we remind you, our meeting is first meeting in 2025, January 8th, back here in this room on a Wednesday. And if there are no go-backs or any questions, I'm looking around the room. We're done before 8 o'clock. So we'll adjourn the meeting and everybody have a very safe and enjoyable holiday. I look forward to seeing everybody next year.
All right. Thank you, John. Merry
Yep.
Christmas to everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. And thank you, John, for all your hard work.
All the Johns.
All the Johns, thank you.